Hello and welcome to Business Today Television, India Today Group. I'm Karishma and joining me is Secretary Dipam, Mr. Tuhin Kanta Pandey. Mr. Pandey, of course, a man of many hats. He's also the Finance Secretary of the country and holds additional charge with DPE and DOPT. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us on this chat. I'd like to begin by asking, sir, of course, the new restructuring capital norms for CPSE have been released, and this is after an 8-year gap that they have come in. The last one was in 2016. Tell us what has been the government's intent behind it.
We have really updated based on the experience that we have had for 8 years. Also, the valuations, the CPSE's performance has been quite outstanding all these years. And they have had a very salutary effect of these capital guidelines which have been followed. And they need to be updated, as you know, as we go along in terms of time value of money, in terms of certain experiences, in certain of trying to balance between the operational and financial flexibility that we want to give, more of it, and also the interests of minority shareholders. So with a balanced perspective, we have updated these guidelines.
Got it. This was pretty anticipated, and like you said, it was also for operational and financial stability and flexibility. Was there a conscious intent of mentioning financial CPSEs in the guidelines?
Yes, I think they are quite a distinct class. I think the earlier guidelines had put all of the CPSEs in one size fits all kind of an approach. There has to be a slightly different approach for them, because for them, the finance is important, the net worth is important in order for them to onwards lend. Capital adequacy requirements are there from the regulator's perspective. So therefore, if we really, take a dividend which has got relationship with net worth, like it was 5% of net worth or 30% of PAT, whichever is higher, in that case, they would we would be really taking away more dividend than desirable from them, because anything which they retain after dividend would be useful for them to shore up their net worth and also to onward lend. And if they have got good lending opportunities, they must.
Right. Sir, in terms of the 30% mandatory dividend, how would it work in case I make a scenario of CPSEs with per se low profitability? Don't you see a liquidity challenge that could come in for them?
No, it's a percentage of PAT. So in a way, if you have a low profitability, it is a low percentage that they would be giving. I mean, in absolute amount, it's a percentage.
It's a percentage, okay. What about CPSEs who sometimes face issues? For example, if we say low profitability CPSE, sometimes they may face operational issue. How would Dipam ensure there is universal compliance maintained without their operations being disrupted?
There's 30% as a minimum guidelines, one. It is not to say that the boards are not independent enough to, boards take independent decisions based on their own individual requirements, their own Capex plans. They might even give more if they have cash available.
Yeah.
See, the cash has to be deployed in business. There's no point keeping cash just for the sake of cash. I mean, cash is costlier if you really look at point of view that it doesn't offer return unless until it is invested. If you do not have the investment opportunities, then you have to take it out and give it to shareholders in one way or the other, either in form of dividend or in the form of a buyback. So therefore, if you really see that there is a requirement, which is, for example, if the minimum requirements are also onerous for a particular CPSE, they can always come to us for exemptions. So that route is available. Normally, there should be a guideline.
Yeah.
And in case you have a specific difficulty even giving 30% dividend, then they can always come back and take exemptions.
Oh, okay. There is room, open scope for that.
Yes, obviously, because there is no absolutism in guidelines. There's always a room for looking into a specific peculiar case.
Yeah.
And that is possible.
Okay, and I'm sure before this CPSEs were consulted in kind of understanding how would these guidelines match their expectations or hopes.
Yes, indeed they were. In fact, all the departments concerned consulted, CPSEs were consulted. We received a number of suggestions, and I think based on that is basically as a pragmatic approach. going into and trying to balance what has happened in the last 8 years, the experiences, as well as the going forward. We have a very important role that the CPSE is playing in their own growth as well as the growth of the country, which also actually impacts favorably on the total returns to the shareholders.
Absolutely, and you did mention about the higher capex that they could in fact look at, with the revised norms also helping them. Sir, one quick question, moving ahead, of course, beyond restructuring, I'd like to understand, because disinvestment is a big department, and it is something that has been dear to the Modi government in the last 10 years. How are the capital miscellaneous receipts panning out in FY 2024?
First of all, I think we are saying if you really look at the receipts to the government, that is only one part of it. Other one is, what is happening to the enterprises.
Yes.
So this capital management guidelines is more concerned with, how the organizations function and what is the value creation that we do, what is the value unlocking we do, how do we bring shareholders returns, and how do we shore up the performance. When it comes to receipt side, and the receipts to the government may flow from the dividend, which is actually an exercise in annually what you perform. A certain part of profit is actually shared with the shareholders, including government.
Yeah.
The other part is that we divest the shares themselves, in which case we actually get the money upfront, but we will be foregoing the future dividends. And overall, we have started looking at overall receipts rather than really one segment or the other. If you really look at it, we are doing about 80 to 90,000 crore from dividend and disinvestment put together. I think that's the kind of a range which is being maintained. About 60,000 crore, 65,000 crore of that order is about the dividend. And some of it is also the receipts from the divestment of thing. And in accounting terms, of course, the dividends go into the non-tax revenue, and the disinvestment receipts go into the miscellaneous capital receipts.
Got it. Couple of them you've already executed in the year, and the recent one was also the OFS with zinc that you had announced. In terms of IDBI, are things on track, sir?
Yes, IDBI is on track, and IDBI is a strategic disinvestment. So in one sense that we have moved to next stage in terms of due diligence by the bidders, following which we'll have financial bid.
Okay. I'd also like to, of course, ask you, sir, on a broader macroeconomic perspective, how do you see, since budget is around the corner, it's going to be just about in 2 months, how do you see the Capex situation panning out for FY25? 11.11 lakh crore has been our target. Things have been slower in terms of numbers for first half year, but do you see things picking up in the second half year?
Yes, I think the first half has been slower. There have been several reasons for that. Election process is one, where both state governments and the central governments, they get tied up of different departments. There is the same machinery actually, which is actually conducting the elections, which is also the one required for taking care of several things like land acquisition, land clearances, other clearances, and so on. So that is one which is impacted by this thing. And I think also in some areas, there have been some excessive rains as well, where the construction activity got impacted. However, this is the season when it really picks up in a major sense, and we hope that some of the major departments like highways and railways and others, which have got a larger chunk of the capital investments, would do well in the second half.
Great. And are we still on our fiscal glide path of 4.9% for FY25 and of course 4.6% for FY26?
Yes, of course. I think we are on the fiscal consolidation path as per the announcement made by FM.
Great. That was Mr. Pandey, who's, of course, the Finance Secretary, the Dipam Secretary also, and holds additional charge of two other departments, joining us on Business Today. The government is banking big on maintaining its fiscal deficit target of 4.9% for FY25 and its fiscal glide path of 4.6% in the next financial year. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us on this chat.